Hello, I'm David Rice. About a year ago I did a Windows boot speed comparison video, and that had XP 7 and Vista. This year, since with the Windows 8 release candidate out right now, not release candidate, consumer preview, I'm going to be running a similar similar test with Vista 7 and the Windows 8 consumer preview. I'll be running this on the same PC I ran on last time, the HP Intel Pentium single core 3.4 GHz with hyper-threading and 2 gigs of RAM. It runs Vista okay. And so let's get to it. Okay, so here we are in front of the computer. I have a MP3 player that has a stopwatch little app on it. So once we get in there, I will be showing you. Okay, so there's our stopwatch. I'll overlay something better, but from boot, power button, to the Windows 8. See, in Windows 8, we appear to be booting into a sort of EFI situation for our boot manager. Can we focus in on that any better? I can't tell. So, here we are about 30 seconds after the push of the power button, 32.64. We have our boot manager, where we see Windows 8, Windows 7, and Vista. Now all these are clean installs. Unlike last time, I do realize that was a fault in my video. And so we will be booting from Windows 7 now, from the Windows 8 boot manager. Now, when I selected Vista, it appears as though it reboots. I think that's a little interesting, but okay. Now, I'm good with Vista that has gadgets preset up from a fresh install. I'm going to go till I see the gadgets with my stopwatch. And also, if you can't see the stopwatch and you really care, you can see the time of the time running on the video. So we have cursor at about 55 seconds. Windows logo. Pause for at 1 minute and 7 seconds. I have a password, which I'm pretty sure Vista requires. Resume the stopwatch after signing in. I paused it while it did that. And there is our sidebar, and gadgets are fully loaded now. That's 1 minute and 22 seconds from the selection in the boot manager. So now we're gonna restart the machine. So here we are back in the Windows 8 boot manager. I didn't retime it because I'm just gonna go off that 32 second mark, and then I'm gonna go boot into Windows 7. Again, it reboots, which I think is interesting, because rebooting to the end of post from hitting enter takes a solid 10 seconds. I personally don't understand this choice by Microsoft. Now, mind you, this is an older system. I think only the newest ones have EFIs at their core. Okay, so since I don't have there are no gadgets in Windows 7, clean boot, it takes 43 seconds from the Windows Boot Manager. Now again, I'm going to shut down and now boot into Windows 8. So here we are back in the Windows 8 Boot Manager, and I'm going to select Windows 8 Consumer Preview, and we're going to go. As you can see there, less than 3 seconds to the lock screen, which essentially is our login screen. I'm going to resume after hitting the go, but yeah, it's pretty much all instantaneous. So, in summary, it takes 11 seconds to get to the desktop, not including sign-in time, on Windows 8. But you have to add, from a BIOS-based system at least, I don't know how well it works on a EFI-based system. But if someone could post in the comments below, that would be excellent. But I don't know if it has to boot into its own EFI instead of using the system's EFI. Or if it's even an EFI thing at all. I could be totally wrong. But yeah, so I'm going to go back to my desktop upstairs, crunch some numbers, do some video editing, and give you some nice pretty numbers in an overlay. Okay, I lied. I'm not done. I'm now going to show how long it takes to get to the traditional Windows Boot Manager and into each of the operating systems. So from start of the power on button to the Windows Boot Manager. Oh, there we are. At just about 16 seconds, we are here in the Windows Boot Manager. Remember, it took us about 30 seconds to get into the Windows 8 Boot Manager, booting into the UEFI and getting a mouse interface. We cannot use the mouse here. It's all keyboard, and we don't have that. We can't change the default boot operating system, but we can get into system recovery from here. So if I choose tab menu, I could do that. But right now I'm just going to show how long it takes to get into Windows Vista from the Windows Boot Manager. Just as a warning, I have tried this a couple times. Those are now outtakes, where it went into a system disk check. And as last time with this test, I'm going to time it to when all the gadgets are loaded. Just past 30 seconds. And I'm also going to pause it during system login. "47 seconds to the login. There, all our gadgets are loaded. I did hesitate a little bit, so I'm going to say that's 57 seconds to full desktop. Remember last time we had to do a reboot from the Windows 8 boot manager? That took about 120 seconds. And now it took 57 seconds to get here from the traditional boot menu. I'm now going to restart and go into Windows 7. Okay, so here we are back in this traditional Windows boot manager. And now we are going to boot into Windows 7, starting now. Now, since I don't have a password on Windows 7 on this PC right now, it wasn't required during a system install. Oh, and here we are. That's 31 seconds from the boot manager to the OS on a fresh install from a hard drive partition. So now the only thing left to see is going back to the traditional Windows boot manager and seeing how Windows 8 handles booting not from its own boot manager. So here we are, starting the timer now. Okay, here we are, 20 seconds in to get to our login screen. And 21 seconds, so that's about twice as long as it took us to get from the EFI. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just all animation time, but total to get to the desktop is 24 seconds. So let's go back up to the main desktop and do some video editing, give you some nice pictures to show you in a graph what all this data looks like. Okay, so here we are at the numbers wrap up after I have magically changed shirts and dimmed the sun. So first, the time from system boot up till we get to a Windows boot manager. For the Windows 8 boot manager, it took 32 seconds. For the traditional Windows boot manager, it took 16 seconds. A little faster. Now, from the Windows 8 Consumer Preview Boot Manager booting to Windows Vista, from the boot manager to the OS, it took 1 minute 22 seconds. Now, total time added that 32 seconds from system startup to boot manager and boot manager to OS. Total time from system startup to OS is 1 minute 54. It's Vista. Meanwhile, after getting rid of Vista, we look at Windows 7 with 43 seconds from boot manager to OS, and total time is 1 minute 15 seconds. Now then you have Windows 8 from its own boot manager. It only takes 11 seconds to get from the boot manager to the desktop. If you go into the start menu, it's faster, meaning you get a total time of 43 seconds. Now let's move on to the traditional boot manager. From the traditional boot manager to Windows Vista, it took 57 seconds. Total, a minute 15. Again, it's using the traditional boot manager. Let's bring these numbers back from here. See, it's about as fast as Windows 7 on the Windows 8 boot manager. Now let's look at Windows 7 on the traditional boot manager. You have, like here, 31 seconds. Total time, 47 seconds total. That's as fast as it took about, remember, for Windows 8, from system boot to OS. Now let's look at Windows 8 in the traditional boot manager. So you have 24 seconds from boot manager to OS, added the 16, 40 seconds. So not much difference between 7 and 8 using the traditional boot manager. Here's a nice little graph with all your numbers really in one place. Enjoy. Feel free to pause the video and look at the graph as long as you'd like. So there you go, there is your system boot time wrap-up. So please, if you like this video, subscribe to my channel for other videos maybe like this. God bless, have a great day.